Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is going to be my next episode of Makeup Dilemmas, where I solve or try my best to help you with your makeup problems, your beauty dilemmas, if you will. So if you want to ask a question for my next makeup dilemmas, I will post on my Instagram stories when I'm ready for the next episode, and you'll have a little question box to fill in and type your questions in there. So if you have a burning question, I can hopefully help you with it. And that way we can all learn from the answers and we can all help each other in the comment section below as well, and have a whole community helping with our little makeup troubles and woes. So without further ado, let's dive into these makeup dilemmas. So first up, Panning with Paula asks whether Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadows are worth it. They are totally worth it to me. One of my absolute favourite formulas. They are definitely a bit less like blingy and dramatic over the top as far as the shimmers in comparison to something like the Pat McGrath and Natasha Denona. They are a different formula. They're a softer, lighter, more natural formula, and to me, I guess more flattering on like textured or more mature eyes. They are softer, more wearable typically, and easier for like beginners to work with, I think, as well, because they are just softer, more buildable and more forgiving in that way. I think they're beautiful shadows. Gorgeous, easy formulas to work with. I think they're getting better all the time. Like the latest palettes like the Fire Rose and the Pillow Talk Dreams are improved and moving forward formulas for the brand. And I think they've just always been very, very pretty and right up my street. So I think they're absolutely worth it. And I absolutely love Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadows. Whether or not it's worth it to you is only really a question that you can answer as to how much you're willing to spend on eyeshadow, how much you will enjoy it, how much you enjoy the colour story, but to me, absolutely. So Aliyah Joe asks, should I give makeup I've used once to friends or sell it? What would you do? So obviously I have a lot of makeup. A lot of it I need to keep because I need to do things like ranking videos or like favorites or, you know, the top 10 palettes or things like that. So even if I'm not using it like a lot of the makeup I buy and review, I actually need to keep for comparisons and for videos and things like that. If there's something I actually don't like and won't use and have no intention of using again, and it's not going to be useful for a future video and it's very lightly used, typically I will give to my friends and family. So I actually have a guest suite in my home, and in there is like a dressing table, and I put all of my makeup that I no longer want in the dressing table, and then everybody who comes to my home or who stays here literally just goes shopping in those drawers. It's a fun time, so you can just take anything that you want from the drawers. So I do that. Sometimes I put together boxes for my mum or my sister or my friends of stuff that I just want to gift to them, and then sometimes people come and just take what they want from the drawers. So that's kind of what I do. I don't sell makeup anymore. I did sell the odd thing, like if I'd used a foundation once for review purposes, I might sell it on eBay or something like that. But honestly, eBay is really annoying with anything that's been used, even if it's just once for review purposes, even if it's been sanitized, they don't really like you to sell stuff on there. So it was too annoying and actually just not worth it for me. I'd much rather like donate it. I did have a charity I donated to, but they stopped accepting like used products, so that's tricky as well. If anyone knows of a shelter or a charity who accept lightly used makeup and are still accepting currently donations, please let me know, because typically a lot of the charities that I've investigated, they want toiletries, which makes perfect sense, obviously much more of an essential item than like eyeshadow palettes. So that's what I do. I don't sell makeup anymore, but obviously if you don't have a makeup channel, there's no reason why, you know, you can't sell them if you can find a website that can do that. I think in America it's much easier. I know there are like websites where, you know, you're allowed to sell like lightly used products, but here it's much more like strict. By the way, I'm not going to answer any more questions on concealer because I think we've done concealer to death in these videos. So if you have a question about concealer, then I've more than likely already answered it in the previous episodes of these Makeup Dilemmas series, because it is a really popular question and something lots of people struggle with. So that question has been answered multiple times in my previous episodes. So if you asked a question about concealer, we've already covered it. Check out the previous episodes. Now, I had several people asking me actually about pilling. So one that I see here is Virgin Citizen, who asked me about pilling with some of their skincare, but I also had a couple questions about makeup pilling and foundation pilling. Now, here's the thing about pilling. Pilling is a sign that something is mixing with something else. That's typically what's happening most often with makeup. It's things are mixing together to make a paste. Remember what happened to Ross with the leather trousers? That's what's happening on your face. So there's a few things to do here. One, some products just don't play nicely together. A lot of silicone layered on the skin can sometimes also be an issue. So if there's silicone in your moisturizer, silicone in your primer, and silicone in your foundation, it might just be it's too much silicone and it's having a party on your face. Certain ingredients don't play well together and they will like start a war, and that can result in pilling. So again, check what the base of your foundation is. Your foundation silicone based or water based or oil based, and is it mixing poorly with whatever you put down first. The third thing is skincare. So if you're finding your primer is pilling, like I did a few months ago when I was talking about my Tatcha liquid silk canvas was pilling when I used a certain moisturizer. So what's happening then is the moisturizer was not sinking into my skin and disappearing off the surface of my face. It was like sitting on top of the skin, and then when I added my primer, it's mixing with the moisturizer and that's giving the pilling. Same thing is happening probably to you. Either your primer is mixing with your moisturizer that hasn't sunk in yet, or your foundation is mixing with your primer that hasn't worked in yet. So you're either not leaving long enough between steps. So either you're putting your primer on top of moisturizer or foundation on top of primer too quickly. You've not allowed it long enough in between steps to sink into the skin, and that's why they're mixing together. Or perhaps the primer or the moisturizer, like mine, is just one that sits on top of the skin and isn't soaking properly in and away from the surface of the skin, and therefore it's still sitting there. Even if you're applying your foundation like 10 minutes later, it's still there and it's still mixing. So that's the thing to try. Look at the ingredients. Is there anything that's going to clash in the two products that you're using back to back? Are you leaving enough time between skincare and primer and foundation? And is there like a problematic product in there that's just not working its way into the skin and allowing the next product to kind of sit nicely on top? Another common question from Ayla559. How can I prevent mascara from smudging? So whenever I talk about mascaras, any mascaras I absolutely love. I always have people saying that one smudges on me. How do you use that without it smudging? Here's the thing about mascara. If you are someone who mascara smudges always on you, and you have a mascara that I'm saying doesn't smudge and it does on you, the likely issue here, unfortunately, is that you have an oilier, if you have oilier eyelids than I do. The main culprit of mascara smudging is actually oily lids, which here's the thing, there's a silver lining here, probably means that your eye area is going to age better than mine. So, you know, take that positive if you can. However, obviously it doesn't really help you with mascara, but that is why mascara often smudges. It's actually usually not really to do with the mascara, it's to do with the fact that your eyelids are oilier, and that's making the mascara sort of almost melt onto them. So there's a few things you can do to stop this. One thing that I stopped doing, based on a tip from Caroline Hirons, which was that she was saying that she doesn't apply eye cream on her lids. She applies her eye cream under the eye and then like under the brow arch, but she doesn't apply eye cream on her lids because they are, you know, an oilier area of skin, and therefore it doesn't need like moisturizer there, and actually that can kind of weigh you down if you have hooded eyes like I do, putting an eye cream, a heavy eye cream onto the lids can actually weigh your eyes down and make that worse. So I immediately stopped doing that, and now I just put my eye cream under my eyes, and I do under the brow as well for good measure. So I don't put creams on top of my eyelids other than obviously SPF. So that might help. If you have an oily eyelid situation, you don't need an eye cream there or a moisturizer there. It's kind of self-regulating, self-hydrating, self-moisturizing in that area, and that might help with how oily they get throughout the day. Definitely set under the eyes and on your lids with powder as much as you can. Obviously you don't want to put a huge amount of powder under your eyes where you have lines, because that's going to exaggerate them, but make sure you are powdering that area, and especially your lids, to kind of keep that oil at bay from breaking through and to give a barrier between mascara and your skin and that oil which is causing the smudging. Those are a few things to try. Obviously try waterproof mascaras, they're going to help hold up better, but that is why, if you're thinking, why does this mascara smudge on me and it doesn't on Charlotte? I definitely don't have oily lids. It's never been an issue. There's only one mascara that has ever smudged on me, and it's the Too Faced Better Than Sex. That one smudged on me and it was a horror show. So I feel your pain. I understand. I was very cross that day, and that went straight in the bin. But it's not something that I commonly struggle with, so that's why that's possibly happening to you using the same mascara that I'm using. You're not doing anything wrong. It's not a different mascara. It's not working any differently. It's just because of a different skin type, a difference in the eyelid area. Very annoying. Next up, Lovely Bron was asking, how do you fix powder makeup that has lifted underneath creams? The horror! This is why I hate creams. This is exactly why. Because they play me for a fool, and this happens more times than it doesn't happen to me. But this does make me an expert in like fixing it. So here's the thing with everything, like with everything. Prevention is much, much easier and better than cure. Okay, so in order to stop this happening, apply creams before powders, creams before powders, creams before powders. So Bron, I think the example Bron was talking about was a beauty light wand from Charlotte Tilbury. So if it's a highlight beauty light wand or a blush beauty light wand, my advice would be to do foundation concealer. You can set that with powder, that's fine. They're not going near each other. And then go in with your beauty light wand, highlight or blush, whichever, blend it in, and then lightly and gently and slowly apply your bronzer underneath. And then you can always kind of tap if you need to blend back on top of the two to blend together. But that would be my advice, to go creams and then powders. If you don't want to do that, or you can't do that for any reason, or it's just too late, it's already happened. You've already done it and it's lifted up and it's a nightmare. Don't panic. Take a deep breath. Calm yourself. Here's what I do when that happens. So the first thing, now what generally happens to me is, say I've got my bronzer, powder bronzer, and then I've gone on with a cream blush, and it's basically made like a hole here, and it's almost like skin is showing. I don't mean I'm mortally wounded, you understand. I mean a gap would have been a better word. A gap where my bronzer used to live and my foundation might have gone also. So it's basically probably like a little patch there that looks horrible and disgusting. So what we're going to do, like I said, we're not going to panic. What I would do typically is get the butt of my beauty blender that likely has a little bit of residual foundation or concealer or whatever, and just really lightly tap over the area to build like some coverage back in, a patch job, if you will. And then you're going to really lightly tap over the top with your bronzer, and again tap over the top very, very lightly. It's almost like you're just starting again, but just in that area, and blending everything back together. That's kind of what I do. Don't go in with more foundation because you're just going to make a paste again. But something like your foundation brush that you used previously, or your sponge, your beauty blender that's got, you know, a bit of foundation just left on it, really, really lightly. You don't want to kind of reapply over the top. You're just literally filling in the gap and then tapping bronzer and then blush right back over on top. Really, really gently, really, really slowly, and just kind of try and blend back in where that gap has appeared. That's kind of what I do. Really soft, really light, really slow is the key, and everything will be fine. But prevention, like I said, always easier and better than trying to fix a nightmare. Wax Munska is asking for a Your Lips But Better lipstick or pencil that looks natural and doesn't transfer. And so I went through my drawers, and let me tell you, I have found such a great option. So it's from Lisa Eldridge, and it is the Velvet Blush Lightly. Let's take a look. So here are my naked lips. Nice to meet you. And this is Blush Lightly. So it is the velvet formula. So you also asked for something that doesn't transfer. And these are amazing. Very long wearing, transfer proof, matte lipstick. Very, very soft and flattering. But this literally looks so natural to me. Like it's almost the exact colour of my lips. Do you see that? Obviously your skin tone and your lip colour is going to influence how natural and how close to your lips a lipstick is, but this for me is almost the exact colour of my lips. And although freshly applied, like barely anything, once this is fully dried down, it's really not going to transfer at all. So a very, very nice, very, very natural, very easy wearable shade that is the definition of Your Lips But Better. Now we're going to stay here because the next question is from Holly Berry Bunny, who says, can I recommend a very wearable, more muted red lipstick that doesn't lean orange? So I have a couple of options for you. Let's wipe this one off. So first up, this is the Charlotte Tilbury Red Wishes lipstick. So this is a poppy red, definitely not an orange toned red. As you can see, a classic poppy red. The thing about these sort of matte lipsticks with a lot of pigment is that they can be used beautifully, very, very lightly, just by how you apply them. So if I was to swipe this, this would give me a nice opaque, quite bright red. But if I tap it, and blend a little with the finger, I'm then getting a much more muted version, a much more wearable, less intimidating shade. So that's one option. Any red that you have, that you like the tone of, that you've seen, you just need to apply it in a softer, more Lisa Eldridge way, and you will get a much more muted, wearable, less scary effect. So speaking of the queen of muted, wearable application of makeup, let's do the same with Velvet Jazz, because this is, again, another red that couldn't be further away from orange. So again, is going to give us a different effect. So we're going to apply it in the same way, tapping. Nice little blend out with the finger, and again you're getting a much more muted, wearable, easier, less intimidating option using the same lipstick. So give that a go. Any lipstick can be a muted, wearable version of itself, just applied instead of swiping, very, very lightly tapped on, and you're going to get a completely different effect. And you get more options, more value for money, so everyone's a winner. Next up, lovely Nikki D asks, how do you store all your makeup? So I have a storage makeup collection playlist on my channel, which is the best place to see a lot of how I store my makeup. I have a set of drawers, the typical IKEA drawers, and then I also have some shelves, and I have a lot of acrylic storage, which I love acrylic storage, and I also have some inserts in my drawers. I get them from all over. Some are Rephr, some are from IKEA. I find cutlery drawers. I purchased a huge big lipstick organizer from Etsy that I really, really love, and yeah, I stick those in my drawers, and everything is really, really easy and helpful to find. But yeah, I have two huge big drawer units that pretty much store everything, and then I have a few palette holders on my shelves. But you can check out my playlist if you want to see what it looks like and how exactly I store and organize things. There's a whole playlist for you to stick your teeth into and find everything you wish to see. So MTMe417 asks, I don't have any crayons or pots. Which should I try first? I have more mature eyes. So my favorites as far as pots, the Chanel eyeshadow pots are really like soft, subtle and easy to work with for me. I think those are really, really great because they aren't like super metallic and they aren't super wet. So they are more flattering on mature eyes and they're just easier to use. The MAC paint pots as well are like, you know, an oldie but a goodie, very easy to use, as are the Charlotte Tilbury cream shadows. Lots of people find they crease on them, so that's a bit of trial and error. I just find if you use a very small amount and you buff them into the lid and you prime your eyes first, I don't get any creasing on those, but they are shinier and more shimmery, so typically they are less flattering than say the MAC that aren't quite as much as sheeny and a bit more subtle. And certainly the Chanel are very, very easy and very smooth, so I would probably start there. KMP8000 asks, does using eyelash curlers every day ruin eyelashes, and how often to change the rubber strip? So I think we all can probably guess what the answer is here. I haven't read any studies regarding the use of eyelash curlers. I'll just say that. However, if what we're ultimately doing here with eyelash curlers is clamping your eyelashes and forcing them to bend with like this metal clamp. Now, I'm no scientist, but I do feel like that has got to be damaging to eyelashes. And obviously, the more often you do it, the more damage you're doing. You know, obviously you can be more gentle, you can do it less often, you can be careful, but I do feel like anything that you're doing like that to hair is going to be damaging it. You know, if we blow dry our hair, if we put heat on our hair, if we curl our hair on our heads, I'm talking about, I don't think many of us are doing that to our eyelashes. We all know that's damaging. I laminate my eyebrows. I know that to an extent that that's damaging, but I also know that, you know, your brows are falling out all the time. You're getting new ones. So it's not like the hair on your head where you want it to live there for many years, you know. Eyelashes also have, you know, a fairly short shelf life, so they are going back all the time. Maybe it's the case that actually you damaged them, sure, but then, you know, it's fallen out and a new one's coming back, so it's all good. I'm not 100% sure what the factual answer is, but I cannot possibly imagine it's not damaging them in some way when you're clamping them and bending them in half. You know, it's got to be damaging them on some level. It's just whether it's worth it to you or not and you want to risk it. I would say the heated eyelash curlers, I would stay away from them because, like, we know heat is bad for hair, you know, and rather a slightly less curled lash than bold eyes in my book. 217 Desute asks, my melasma always makes foundation look grey. I totally hear you. My melasma got really, really bad a few years ago, and like after I had my children, and it is definitely better now. It gets worse, much worse in the summer. So again, prevention for me is always the easier option. I, you know, full SPF 50 all of the time and a visor if I'm out for a long period of time. Try to stay out of the sun because the sun makes mine worse and worse and worse, and it is really tricky. The key to melasma, if it's really prominent, is colour correction. So depending on your skin tone, how deep or fair your skin tone is, and the colour that your melasma is, some people it's very, very grey, some people it's more brown. You need to colour correct before you apply your foundation, and that will help keep the foundation, the tone with the majority of your skin, rather than it like taking on the tone of your melasma underneath. So you want that colour correction first. Again, depending on what colour your melasma takes on and also what your skin tone is, it's probably going to be a peach that you want to try, but have a look depending, like I said, what color your melasma is and how deep your skin is, you might need a slightly different color corrector shade. So have a look online. There's lots of color wheels and there's lots of information about what color to use for different colors to color correct. You know, if you have a lot of redness, people color correct with green. So it really depends on the color of the melasma and your skin tone. But typically with melasma, peach is the correct color corrector to use. So I would recommend trying a color corrector first, very, very lightly, a very small amount, maybe something like the Charlotte Tilbury corrector. They have a really nice peachy shade in that one. Really light layer, really small amount before foundation. Let it sink into the skin and set, and then a light layer of foundation over the top. Please let us know how that goes if you try that and whether it's working for you. I'd love to know if that's worked. If you find something, please let us know. And last but not least, lovely Lauren asked, what's the best primer for oily skin? Now, I don't have oily skin. My skin is pretty normal. So this is one for the group. If there are any oily skinned lovelies out there, please hit us up with your primers, your best primers, the primers that work best for your oily skin in the comments section down below, so Lauren can have a look at a whole load of advice and information from those of us with the same skin type as her. I'm sure that will be really, really helpful if we can help Lauren solve this as a group project, a collaboration, if you will. So that's all I have time for. I answered as many questions as I could and the most commonly asked questions. I really hope that this was helpful and you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.